with the final Monday of the historic Monday Night Wars, which saw both companies going all out for the past 6 years to deliver every potential storyline segment or match possible with the biggest stars the industry has ever seen in faster-paced TV programming than ever before. Nobody could have predicted that perhaps the most surreal moment would come on its final night, with Vince McMahon opening Nitro in its final broadcast on the Turner networks in one of the biggest game-changing moments of all time that had to be seen to be believed, with Vince in what not long ago seemed like a wild dream announcing himself as the new owner of WCW with its fate now in his hands, bringing out the man who's most synonymous with WCW history, with Ric Flair opening the final Nitro in a tribute promo to the legacy of the company while responding to Vince's comments minutes earlier, telling McMahon that for years they ran neck and neck with the WWF and the company's rivalry was always more about the office than the boys in both locker rooms, closing the promo challenging the man he declared as his greatest opponent with one final match against Sting later tonight. With Vince McMahon set to address both audiences in an unprecedented simulcast on TNN and TNT later tonight, the built headline match signed last Monday with the Scott Steiner vs. Booker World vs. US title vs. title match, instead surprisingly taking place as the first match of the promoted Night of Champions, with the match seeing Nitro, which already opened bigger than usual due to the intrigue on the night, jumping over 500,000 viewers to its second most watched segment of the year with a 3.2 rating already in the second quarter, with Steiner vs. Booker going 5 minutes to end, with Booker going over clean to end Steiner's 4-month title reign and end up as the official final WCW champion in company history. Nitro maintained a 3.2 rating for the rest of the unopposed hour, first with a rapid-paced three-way cruiserweight tag match, and with representatives of WWF production backstage at Nitro in Panama to set up in time the big angle of the night with the Vince simulcast promo coming up. The formatting of the first hour, presumably done by the WWF, saw all the advertised top title matches already taking place by 9 p.m. to not place them head-to-head with Raw. And with the WWF officially announcing the acquisition of WCW from Turner Broadcasting in a press release on Friday, WWF President Stuart Snyder, who was a key figure in the negotiations to buy the company due to his relationship with Brad Siegel, with both going as far as to allegedly internally sabotage any deal that is not to McMahon, leading to the suspicious ridiculously low price of around $2.5 million for buying the brand and video library, which, to put in perspective, is less than Bill Goldberg's yearly salary on his current contract, commenting on the deal saying that WCW opens new opportunities for growth in viewership and pay-per-views, and that WCW programming is set to start airing on TNN in the near future. Exactly an hour after the shock of seeing Vince McMahon on WCW television, Vince opened Raw to announce the news of him buying WCW to WWF viewers, and after years of wrestlers jumping back and forth with leverage in negotiations, it was receipt time for McMahon, with the first victim being Jeff Jarrett, who held up the company and threatened to walk before a pay-per-view match during his final night in the WWF in October '99. Resulting in Vince practically firing him on the air, followed by McMahon taking shots at WCW for the rest of the night, including saying how appropriate it is that WCW's last broadcast is taking place in a redneck beer joint in Florida, with one heated exchange seeing Regal warning Vince that WCW is an awful place, with Tony during commentary on Nitro moments later responding that they had to do some crazy things, with one of them being pretending to put over Regal on television, with him dealing with constant substance issues and being fired twice during his run with the company. with Raw's first segment seeing Kurt Angle, who until now was mostly involved in the build-up to the Rock Austin main event, issuing an open challenge for WrestleMania taken by Chris Benoit to set up Angle vs Benoit for the pay-per-view. With what is set to be the biggest pay-per-view in history just 6 days away, when all focus normally would be on building up to the event, only an all-time industry game-changer like the WCW sale to the WWF could shift focus away and almost overshadow the WrestleMania pay-per-view, with the deal can be looked at from two different perspectives, with one of it being that the WWF is about to enter its biggest business run in history with the interpromotional angle and a series of legit all-time dream matches years in the making, drawing a string of the biggest pay-per-views of all time, while the other being that the sale of WCW to the WWF can potentially be the most damaging moment in industry history, with the company from that point can afford to routinely be on cruise control after essentially eliminating any chance of legit competition happening ever again in the business, with the initial plan for the now WWF-owned Nitro being a 2-hour 11 p.m. time slot on one of the Viacom-run networks, most likely on either MTV or TNN. As with the real Nitro ending tonight, its legacy will forever be the show that revolutionized and transformed wrestling television from a marketing tool to push house shows and pay-per-views, to major weekly standalone events that became the biggest revenue source and most important aspect of the industry. With the never-been-done-before simulcast just minutes away, the WWF took no risks in a segment or match going longer than expected to place the McMahon promo to simultaneously start on both networks exactly on time during the final ever head-to-head quarter between 9:45 to 10 p.m., with the 10 minutes prior to Vince walking to the ring seeing short backstage segments and mostly JR and Heyman hyping the Rock vs Austin main event on Sunday, including showing highlights from another all-time memorable segment produced by Rock and Austin with a sit-down interview with JR Thursday on SmackDown, building the WrestleMania 17 main event as the biggest match of all time, with the combined viewership boosted by Nitro drawing its highest rating since September 2000, spiking big to the highest total since Raw's debut on TNN on September 25 with over 9.6 million viewers between both shows during the 9 to 10 p.m. hour, resulting in wrestling having 4 of the top 7 most watched hours of the week on cable television, with the final episode of Nitro in total drawing significantly above the average of almost any primetime show on all major networks, with over 3.7 million viewers, to again put the political maneuvering behind its cancellation in question. The iconic Flair vs Sting combination in a fitting final match in WCW history, with all the trademark spots seen between them for over a decade, went 7 minutes to bump Nitro over 600,000 viewers to a 3 rating, with Sting going over, and as Flair and Sting embraced in the ring as the final send-off to WCW's legacy, Vince McMahon came out on Raw for a moment that just a few years ago looked like a fantasy, when the billionaire Ted Turner backed Eric Bischoff and the NWO ruled the industry, now turning into reality as Vince walked to the ring in one of the biggest highlights of his career, as Heyman declared McMahon the official winner of the Monday Night War, with the historic simulcast starting at 9:43 p.m. with the TNT feed joining Raw during Vince's entrance, creating an unprecedented situation not only for the historical significance of it in the wrestling industry but television in general, with 2 competing TV networks broadcasting the same live show at the same time, with the gloating McMahon saying that Time Warner is practically begging for him to buy the company as he was the only one who knows what to do with it, saying that the only way to beat a billionaire like Turner is to become one yourself, with Vince legitimately going from near bankruptcy to billionaire status in less than 4 years, asking for Ted Turner to come to WrestleMania and sign the contract on Sunday in person on the pay-per-view, before asking the crowd what he should do with WCW, with the options being turning it into an empire like the WWF or put it on the shelf, with Vince as he waited to do for years taking his shots back at Hogan and Bischoff, who routinely mocked him while they were on top, saying that he now has the last laugh, turning into one of the most intriguing parts of the promo with him listing the WCW headliners to sample the crowd reaction to their names and what could potentially have legitimate repercussions, with Scott Steiner and Bill Goldberg getting the biggest pops from the Cleveland crowd, including starting a Goldberg chant, followed by Bagwell, Sting, Booker, Hogan and Luger, ending the promo declaring that WCW is buried and will remain buried as he's shutting it down, bringing out Shane McMahon on Nitro in Panama to reveal that he signed the contract as the new owner in one of the most memorable segments the industry has ever seen, with this segment jumping big on both channels, spiking combined over 1.4 million viewers to a 3.5 rating on TNT and 4.4 on TNN, combining to a 7.9 rating with over 10.4 million viewers watching the promo, with the breakdown of over 4.3 million viewers on Nitro and over 6 million on Raw, with the 3.5 opposed quarter on Nitro the highest since December '99 and the less than 1 rating point margin the closest between the shows since November 22, '99. With the final ever Nitro broadcast symbolically going off the air with a WrestleMania promo for the WWF's two biggest stars of the Monday Night Tour's boom period, heading into the highest profile match of their career against each other in 6 days. Minutes after potentially the biggest angle in wrestling history, the 10 to 10:15 p.m. period on the March 26, 2001 Raw was one of the most important going forward, with the first quarter of the post-Monday Night Tours era indicating on either the regular the WCW audience now switching to Raw with Nitro permanently off the air or moving on to another alternative, with the results for the WWF, while not a surprise for anyone following the viewing patterns of the past year, with the clear situation of the WCW viewership being a separate audience and not automatically switching to Raw unless it was a special situation on rare occasions. Disappointing after such a unique segment, with Raw picking up over 1.2 million viewers from a 4.4 to 5.4 rating after Nitro went off the air in a quarter featuring Angle legend Christian vs Benoit and the Hardys in a 6-man tag match, while staying in that range for the rest of the broadcast with no further bumps from the big audience of over 4.3 million viewers watching the Vince and Shane Nitro finish, indicating around 3 million viewers going elsewhere with the hope of getting them back either for the relaunch of Nitro under the WWF brand or for the start of the interpromotional angle when the top WCW names arrive, with Raw's most watched standalone quarter of the night coming midway through the second hour, with Mick Foley making a surprise unadvertised return after over 3 months, revealing himself signing a document with Linda before being fired by Vince in December to have a role in one of the top WrestleMania matches, with Foley, who turned down the proposed match against Vince, with Shane instead taking his place, announcing himself the special referee for the match. With Foley returning to set up his role at WrestleMania on the night, another top name who was backstage in Cleveland with the plan to be written into a top match on the pay-per-view was Shawn Michaels, who recently signed a new long-term contract with the company, with Michaels, who at one point was rumored to make a return to the ring after 3 years at the event, showing up to Raw in vintage HBK mode to the point that within hours he got himself written off the pay-per-view, with him reportedly in no condition to work, raising questions on his planned return to the ring in the next month along with his new contract now that there's no legit competition for him to sign for. Raw's big star power main event tag match in the first ever and last live Raw match to also be advertised on the Nitro broadcast on the same night, saw Rock and Austin making their entrances already past 11 p.m. to go 10 minutes in the overrun, closing the show with a 5.1 rating with Austin pinning Taker after Triple H's interference in his only appearance on the night, setting up the go-home angle for the WrestleMania 17 pay-per-view main event, with Rock giving Austin a stunner while standing over him with a beer in hand as the final image for what is targeted to be the biggest money match the business has ever seen. With the industry coming out of this night and heading into next Sunday, and Monday will never be the same again in perhaps its most newsworthy week in history.